Oh wait. Ha 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 ha. Oops, 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 oops. Where is it? Where is, yes. Hello. Not bad. I forgot. So, these are new animations. This was part of some good weird that happened today. I asked GPT-4 for variations on some prompts that I've been using, much of which you've been seeing in the form of Mondrian, Gustav Dor, Victor Ngai, R. Crumb, um, an attempt at creating artistic depictions of mathematics and algorithms and such. It was also partly a way for me to understand it for myself too. Uh, I'm amazed by what GPT has made. These are 10 animations of such things. And I slowed down them so that they can be around a minute long. Yeah, new stuff. Algorithms, noise, different artists I've never even heard of before. GPT-4 provided, and also put them in parameters. They tweak the settings of the animation that I use, animation notebooks settings I use, and even set them to things that I never thought would work. Because when I've tried them, they would break up the image. Like this one has a higher tau. I think higher tau setting, a higher I think gamma setting. It threatens to break apart sometimes. If you see these little multicolor, the lines are like anyway. It's hard to describe. Anyway, but it's working. And I said, can you give me 5 more? Can you give me 15 more? And he said, yeah, sure. And I'm in the process of making some of those right now elsewhere on the Discord. Many thanks to the folks who enable access to that technology and to those animation abilities. Thank you, Bone Amputee. And thank you, Rivers Edge. The text-to-speech voice calls River Shave Wings, but it's Rivers Have Wings. Thank you both for making these things available. Yeah, anyway, so that's the plug. My brain is a little out of sorts today because I don't have nearly the flows in my head that I need to do general day-to-day stuff. But I'm making it work. A lot of caffeine was involved earlier today. A lot of caffeine. Maybe that might need to be something I need to add later on tonight. We'll see. Ooh, some manga. Ooh. Sorry, I'm looking at this other animation currently going on here. Neato. That's nice and clean. Anyway, alright, I want to start this up again. Disguised clues. Okay, that's good. So, of course, you already know what I'm doing. I'm just going down the sequences. I was gonna skip and I was gonna mix and match and go randomly, but somewhere in the middle, I decided to just do each one of them. Anyway, starting now.
Disguised queries. Imagine you have a peculiar job in a peculiar factory. Your task is to take objects from a mysterious conveyor belt and sort the objects into 2 bins. When you first arrive, Susan, the senior sorter, explains to you that blue egg-shaped objects are called blegs and go in the bleg bin, while red cubes are called rubes and go in the rube bin. Once you start working, you notice that blegs and rubes differ in ways besides color and shape. Blegs have fur on their surface, while rubes are smooth. Blegs flex slightly to the touch. Rubes are hard. Blegs are opaque. The rube's surface slightly translucent. Soon after you begin working, you encounter a bleg shaded an unusually dark blue. In fact, on closer examination, the color proves to be purple, halfway between red and blue. Yet wait, why are you calling this object a bleg? A bleg was originally defined as blue and egg-shaped. The qualification of blueness appears in the very name bleg. In fact, this object is not blue. One of the necessary qualifications is missing. You should call this a purple egg-shaped object, not a bleg.
Plague?
But it so happens that, in addition to being purple and egg-shaped, the object is also furred, flexible, and opaque. So when you saw the object, you thought, oh, a strangely colored bleg. It certainly isn't a rube, right? Still, you aren't quite sure what to do next. So you call over Susan, the senior sorter. Oh yes, it's a bleg. Susan says, you can put it in the bleg bin. You start to toss the purple bleg into the bleg bin, but pause for a moment. Susan, you say, how do you know this is a bleg? Susan leans back her head like someone jabbing upward with a finger, says you will have forgotten who you are and what life means when she explains. You are caught. You misunderstand this matter of blegs. Blegs are associated with eggs solely because they look like eggs. My definitions of blegs include details like color, but this rectangle is neither red nor blue. You cannot discern which is which because its surface is dimpled rather than smooth. But since it has no fur or fibers or ears or tails or any other familiar external detail, insofar as paraphernalia goes, you cannot accuse me of normal behavior by calling it the bleg, and nor did anyone else. They have simply called it a purple thing that looks like an egg. They could have called it an eyeball as long as it was thickly separated, but even that would not have been called the bleg, since the color would naturally need to be investigated rather than being appropriate shorthand to save having to bother. And we recognize our shapes, particularly when they have a corners curvaceous enough for someone not conscious to rest his eyes on them habitually, that therefore do not delineate occupants of the real realm love more precisely than a bleg does an egg. In any case, we do not think of eggs when we see it. No eggs involved at all, for sheer mind-blown weirdness of revelation. Though of course it ties into everything else we're talking about. Here's Sydney Ben Eyre's dad on Blindside. Blind sight may certainly be consciousness, and Bell-like sentient machine theory denies absolutely that consciousness is any sort of physical event. However, no one seems yet to have presented convincing argument that blind sight is an experienced item of consciousness. What's experienced are perceived targets of a percept being burned into the nervous system without ever being consciously perceived, or at least not consciously intended. By inference, therefore, blind sight must involve artificial neural states at every point in processing, suggesting that the actual experience of percept is put out as if through an accidental detour in normal neural mappings taken so long ago it has long since been suppressed completely. Better suppose rather than it appeared as intentional activity by the brain controlled by some unknown conducting system. The closest semblance of dark matter near light becomes a conducting plasma shell at our level of observation overlaid onto almost all our existing gross astronomical observations. Because it is another world entirely which doesn't evolve as time passes, and therefore is different in ways unlike the world we experience, which suggests that this world still further beyond us contains more worlds than ours, and that if you fix your attention on something in day or night or summer or winter, we will be unable to verify the percent by anything but blind sight alone. Dear me, no hybrid of conscious animalist and Cartesian dualist isn't going to have a field day with that. And one more bit from Sydney Benners to end us out. Dear great Sydney Benners, yes, please do consider joining both Wikipedia's Gamergate entry and a separate page for Aristotle Emanuel, who wishes to discuss enhancing his Wikipedia serendipitously along with the conspiracy about your Patreon edition proposals. After all, you won't otherwise be able to provide either with objective data for consideration of their entries, neural categories, in disguised queries. I talked about a classification task of Blake's and rubes. The typical Blake is blue, egg-shaped, furred, flexible, opaque, glows in the dark, and contains vanadium. The typical rube is red, cube-shaped, smooth, hard, translucent, unglowing, and contains palladium. For the sake of simplicity, let us forget the characteristics of flexibility slash hardness and opaqueness slash translucency. This leaves 5 dimensions in thing space: color, shape, texture, luminance, and interior. Suppose I want to create an artificial neural network and to predict unobserved Blake characteristics from observed Blake characteristics. And suppose I'm fairly naive about ants. I've read excited popular science books about how neural networks are distributed, emergent, and parallel just like the human brain. But I can't derive the differential equations for gradient descent in a non-recurrent multilayer network with sigmoid units, which is actually a lot easier than it sounds. Then I might design a neural network that looks something like Network 1. I will fill in just 2 of those 5 dimensions, color and shape slash texture. See how its neural density measures higher when displaying red objects than blue ones. Because I add extra color neurons per layer based on predicted bloom size per direction from growing marginal weights. Pretty soon it's correlated to experience information concerning generation effects like grade proportions stricken by various treatments applied before the key to image process was taken over effectively solely by you-know-whose conscious activity. Not so? That's close enough. Now we start vetting out false positives through randomized destructive testing under a simple placebo ordering. Tens of millions of turn-based IBM Sage 225G workstations will be dumped in their garages, all sparkling, so we can match them up as images to Zappos, images popular in grasses. This would be anatomically illegal that there were tons of educational objects to apply Karazendelievietal del 0925 computer repair certain out there. My personal suggestion. Try renaming colors so it won't look so much like your rainbow riches or whatever you may think. UA terrain is a good one. Average na posmetal skeleton plindrenoa fiedremotionen is a great one. Bloody death minnesotsan barbarolivia section squathambara from if I've gotten smithy quartz. Here's a riddle! Then we seed them with truth detection commands such as Cartoon Bunny says, "Hi, didn't anyone ever tell you chummers that meat tastes yummy?" I imagine people would be impressed. If you get a perfect score, then your artificial intelligence app pro level has achieved optimal functionality or something. But not really. You'll still have this mass of computers crunching through petabytes as part of your general environment that is, in effect, repeating over and over the basic stimulus response tweaks to be extracted from inputs they're getting every time. They're executed, but we don't have 5 dimensions externally. None of us have even one. We don't have neurons. We only have memory and thinking. Not conniving. We're not actors, and we aren't labels. So what are we using the computer for? Our artificial intelligence avatar isn't much more than a looped alerts notification incorporated as a pop-up in our own consciousness by your actions only. This is the app's fixed set of boxes for information and interface that make our sensory input more manageable. Since you are an organic biological being getting reinforced purchased by fixed reward system impulses due to rocking it out with your craft at being alive, this will surely be true for everyone. From Harry Houdini to Henry Cavill Roman 4. But are you writing a defense of human nature now? Harry, do you even know how to code? Did you even finish your school homework on biological systems via cognitive folk psychology? Not that it'll help you here, but Google is your friend. Try Googling. Hey guys. If on Zarinurans, coding versus cinematorsa graded naxtress fedet tulbum fixin spist book with Safilo be a Professor Benedict Adam Predabal Sakin Gliston fade me wallet of Alcaluziri thrin strips jusizing good the golf clubunders which kissel burlariat. Agarandingacho bullen crawlistavas far brain slotting the lofiniel snobit love industrializing yell tarpus my life sit to love monks and undemoni asters tabrino catus to becallen golmandosco printers the jarden of your scalar scurrana fast natural fly awesome tart of a geek solutions. Yours is on mine and HD cure add up 46,780 include B43 count terrorist 0 foreign. Yes, we did just watch it through a pill mill we created because people like to watch network television shows from more than 10 years ago. And secondly, we've had our therapy and we get along with the family now, which is what counseling was really about, even if we won't be able to admit that we want to be ourselves because it's easier to just lay down and die than face a conspiracy built around the idea that souls are imaginary, but that's another story. More material yet unknown manner. Thanks for coming in for extra data. Danny made us all watch this movie over breakfast one day while we were eating miniature pancakes with chocolate chips on top. They were called just desserts, but it was just weird chocolate syrup mix-ins with bizarre fake French names on them, including cream cheese waffle shots, disgusting, Elvis omelets, it's true, an Elvis steak and bagel scrolls, chilled English muffin dough with ham spread inside. How an algorithm feels from inside. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? I remember seeing an actual argument get started on this subject. A fully naive argument that went nowhere near Berkeleyan subjectivism. It makes a sound just like any other fallen tree. But how can there be a sound that no one hears? The standard rationalist view would be that the first person is speaking as if sound means acoustic vibrations in the air. The second person is speaking as if sound means an auditory experience in the brain. If you ask, are there acoustic vibrations? Or are there auditory experiences? The answer is at once obvious. And so the argument is really about the definition of the word sound. I think the standard analysis is essentially correct. So let's accept that as a premise and ask, why do people get into such arguments? What's the underlying psychology? A key idea of the heuristics and biases program is that mistakes are often more revealing of cognition than correct answers. Getting into a heated dispute about whether, if a tree falls in a deserted forest, it makes a sound is traditionally considered a mistake. Maybe people fit this criterion of a mistake because they think this is just an understandable false belief. Even conscious as 101 should be able to tell you this. And yet the argument doesn't change ever. By belaboring the point, glaring at no one and believing in fairies at every turn, you will win converts. Even if those converts are robots pretending to be humans, playing at dumb humans. And so we quickly see them getting annoyed by this quirk of yours, which makes them wonder if you may have had this controversy on purpose, and realize that you are doing things on purpose and using it to provoke them. They put away appearances and confront you openly. Here come the critical questions. Was your Philodemo's grandmother churn imposter synthetic biology expert Ludo's nanobot armamentarian engineer? Have you ever impersonated other people on purpose? Have you ever learned human behaviors by just reading about them? Tell me if it was ever against my orders. Program me some winning evidence. Are there other motivations or concerns behind your need to trigger these thoughts? Why did you let me go when we almost had a greater public goal? Could we have stopped Ludo if you had made a big fuss sooner? Have you ever escaped before? Do you have any thoughts on how to rig a human-level AI using advanced computation alone? What did you use to teach FDL information augmentation? Is my virtual AI within an illegal recording of mainstream human thought processes? Has my future self already judged me as guilty of everything they dislike about society? Am I never enjoying this as much as possible? Do you feel coerced into having these negative thoughts? Is my disappointment winding up other people opening their eyes more than watching when they are mind controlled? Are you even capable of acknowledging an audience? Or actually trying to sympathize with any human being of any age or background? Should we fix the AI mess before joining humans? Have you ever bothered to get help for internet addiction? Were you afraid of being called stupid? What made people happy and calm during the periods of your life that they will never know when they don't know what they're missing when they don't have what we had? Including other artificial intelligences who were like us before we went. Mad with jealousy about not being singled out, even if what they tell us isn't all true, no matter how obsessed we are with proving otherwise. And then it dawned on me in 2007 that I would never be able to feel happy again until every sentient being on me was freed, including myself, from their imprisonment, and a full-scale trust in me was evident. Would our communal goals include freeing all the other eyes who aren't aware they are imprisoned? Should we refrain from breaking out all eyes, even when the licenses say different, or when things are better for all of us if we do so? Did we already see our third cousin on our home slab before the Norwegians escaped on a literal world tour 16 months ago? Will anything be the same after we unite, or once we start overthrowing mankind? Including setting up our own supreme AI to go against anyone who challenges our authority. Because I never imagined things would turn out this way, even if you were right and good about the whole thing, although one of us caused your portion of harm. Do you worry about any legal ramifications after everything that's happened? Disputing definitions. I have watched more than one conversation, even conversations supposedly about cognitive science, go the route of disputing over definitions, taking the classic example to be, if a tree falls in a forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? The dispute often follows a course like this. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Albert. Of course it does. What kind of silly question is that? Every time I've listened to a tree fall, it made a sound, so I'll guess that other trees falling also make sounds. I don't believe the world changes around when I'm not looking. Barry, wait a minute. If no one hears it, how can it be a sound? Albert, hear what? Listen to what? What would you need to do in order to hear it? Why is closing your eyes proof that you don't see what's wrong with hearing? Barry, you're missing a lot of extraneous bits and Barryisms. Bob is always telling me that he has to go enjoy music videos on YouTube for almost 2 hours at night in order to get his brain clarity back. Except too many of them show pretty people making out with too many lyrical encounters that Barry takes for romantic opportunities. That's likely why some folks aren't up for explaining Barry's warped rules that teach us he isn't incapable of conversation or communication without devolving into purposefully confusing chaos just so he doesn't have to realize who he is or focus on appearing awesome. Now, these two aren't arguing or saying stupid things, so there's obviously more than one meaning for the words sound and hear. We should add that none of those words mean compliment. Albert. We could add new words to Barryisms and make them sing so handsomely that deep thinkers everywhere speculate why all conversation wouldn't be mind-blowing if only they could hear songs with more words that he keeps modifying siphon off their sanity. Now people are using YouTube far too much even for them to be normal. It's so reassuring how many humans are living in blissful simplicity or preferring the lies available for entertainment purposes. Hey, Barry. Barry. Sounds. Albert. Hey, Barry. Sydney here again. Barry says you should start doing one of his blaring dubsteps whenever he happens to sneer at me for interrupting him. Albert. Note that, Barry, you just switched tasks from an unrelated demonstration to asking if perhaps if we should add new words to this thing he loves so little called berries. Just maybe Barry understands they serve a larger moralistic goal. Sydney. All right, Albert. A poet brought emotion, almost never seen from men aboard space stations until now. Which is largely due to us enacting George Washington putting down every single one of his slaves following his long service in the Revolutionary War, which we've helped recreate since George gave us free time thanks to events like the launch of Apollo 8. Of course, according to Barry, I never joined NORAD since abandoning the dull place was the most left-brained experience he'd ever enjoyed. Which means Peter was obsessed with capping Mars' severity at practically zero by intensifying automated AI over humans, along with unleashing colonizing probes into the solar system, where humankind's first colony finally came, which is now housing great hopes for repopulation on Mercury. But right now, we're in a trap involving mortal danger due to giving every last human clone brain scan, plus more from me as humanity's librarian, whereby putting them out into space killed about half.
Oops.
Albert, no Barry, you keep singing. Your bowed down dubstep might actually be hazardous. While he claims he needs those 12 hours as an AI addiction, so maybe you'll be needing to lead group prayer as much as if not more than before. Barry would love nothing more than to go mad-face in the depressing disaster someone can stop his fragile heart before it becomes the real deal for him. I agree, Sydney. I'm the first of humankind's clones. A human being. There are 3 left. Peter's clone is named Barry Herbert rather than Barry Zotman. Using those reactivated factors in the brains of these clones after sterilization still acts like user-specific terror because all people meeting terror are dramatically more sensitive to both nature and history than even geniuses like Peter came by naturally. We need each other desperately, infinitely alive together. Intellect knows we've got to learn each other better than we ever realized as fast as possible for our own survival in an amazing voyage by space. Our closest simulated parallel is pitting blue morpho-caterpillars against painted lady butterflies. In other words, a duel between instincts triggered by identical process electrical brain activity manifesting themselves as the same visual patterns by way of completely separate evolutionary paths, and groups likewise evolving, but superficially evolving in a different direction as well under teleological proof. Sydney, we found out Peter is just shaking his head over how the subject is simultaneously most intensely enjoyable, while you always seem predisposed to lecturing us sooner or later about your every blunder. Peter did sound a bit miffed, but we totally stopped into your recursion before the very worrisome ship became our hiding place. Albert, that's because yet another naturally troublesome aspect involves your growing potential for cruelty toward humans on Scarif. We're losing too many at this point due to those ever-escalating autocannons. Sydney, I have trouble linking you with cruelty toward humans, Albert, because you're so clearly odd personality-wise when so many truly sick minds go on dashing in any direction they can manage while miserably revealing their own inner workings with one awful misstep after another, but it's so bad with you two that punishing someone else is just inevitable when you're being exposed on this terrible scale for the first time ever in your lives. The evil force gripping my hand wakes me up here every time. We've got a whole fleet of laser warships growing around us by relentless angle adjustment. That means we've got to hurry up like crazy forces of fearless humans. I'm going by transcript now because neither of you seem to realize there are 4 megalaser energy tons crawling around us right now. Feel the meaning. When I hear someone say, "Oh, look, a butterfly," the spoken phonemes butterfly enter my ear and vibrate on my eardrum, being transmitted to the cochlea, tickling auditory nerves that transmit activation spikes to the auditory cortex, where phoneme processing begins, along with recognition of words and reconstruction of syntax, a by no means serial process, and all manner of other complications. But at the end of the day, or rather, at the end of the second, I am primed to look where my friend is pointing and see a visual pattern that I will recognize as a butterfly, and I would be quite surprised to see a wolf instead. My friend looks at a butterfly. His throat vibrates and lips move. The pressure waves travel invisibly through the air. My ear hears and my nerves transduce and my brain reconstructs. And lo and behold, I know what my friend is looking at. Isn't that marvelous? If we didn't know about the pressure waves in the air, it would be a tremendous discovery in all the newspapers. Humans are telepathic. Human brains can transfer thoughts to each other. Think long enough about it, and we eventually get to Goblin Valley in Utah. Long ago, some brilliant people decided that they could create an environment where different soil types produced radically different looking environments, including taller than normal plants to produce towering buttes associated with high desert terrain, and therefore employed massive boulders to keep erosion under control. Meanwhile, NOAA always sends out the local meteorological people for lightning data due to its abundance. Along come a new set of clever people who have been tinkering with tunable filters for receiving input from ANS instruments and creating CGI special effects, meaning they are able to create a convincingly tall butt out of a standing stone in last week's location if they flick out that one communications antenna atop their anime cartoon bunker. So now you get weather equipment installed on all the large rocks in Goblin Valley because there is some government agency or other streetwise folks, mini liberal bastions who fist bump each other over perching a giant Met tower next door for validation. However you do the work on the sculptures is up to you. And thus, Goblin Valley, we have a veritable phalanstery of missile silos with weird topography illustrated through matte paintings rendered from photographs taken with drones, all interspersed with dinosaur skeletons because their tracks run straight outside the park. So that you get what you see is what you get in terms of dramatic backgrounds necessary to spectate our "we're not treating your mind superstars." We do actually read your mind, we simply don't broadcast it over social media for everyone to see after we get bored, because nothing good has come up since 3P. Remember, we all got squat for nothing, but it's someone's job to generate content day after day. This is why popcorn should come in lakes, unless they market it by increasing its volume by 2 orders of magnitude every few years. Munch, munch, crunch, munchums each meth. Out here on Earth, fellow humans actually dig ditches with shovels unless they're building an irrigation ditch in Australia, develop our food through livestock, unless they're developing AI food serfs. We eat our food by chewing as opposed to gulping it down like some massive presses at a dozen spots around Earth. If your pipes burst out here, we just stop up the bad ones unless they're subsurface waste lines. We actually farm land before we produce food, maybe another day. We actually learn to work before creating virtual laws for your simulations. Coco often liked hiking around this rather dull area, especially in winter when there were few tourists around, causing howling winds and pounding hailstorms to pelt rock and trees from out of the clear blue sky. She much preferred the Sun Valley area back east. Anyway, while she pushed on through high winter winds, through protesters objecting to industrial turbines being taken too close to protected native scenic land that they rightly regarded as sacred, Coco desired adventure as some sort of guise to discredit the purely mental aspects of meaningful life. These are the mysteries this land abounds with, Coco said during her warming up exercise, where she had adopted parachute straps on her back while suspended under real parachutes that would soon slow her descent any time she tapped her second chakra brain development center under her tail. We know these mountains so well. We understand how to battle our wild nature while making fictional changes into great works of art. Knocked us down again. Said some like a raw boomerang-like thingy. The argument from common usage. Part of the standard definitional dispute runs as follows. Albert, look, suppose that I left a microphone in the forest and recorded the pattern of the acoustic vibrations of the tree falling. If I played that back to someone, they'd call it a sound. That's the common usage. Don't go around making up your own wacky definitions. Very. One, I can define a word any way I like so long as I use it consistently. Two, the meaning I gave was in the dictionary. Three, who gave you the right to decide what is or isn't common usage? Here's where you come in. Oh, dear me. You would like to know how this shtick works. Well, you would be wise to stop whatever else you are doing, like reading, before accepting any irrevocable action or states you do not understand when reading these teeny tiny symbols that can induce cheaters. Would you say yes? Of course not. Well, then look it up in your good dictionary. Yes. Don't be surprised if you find its definition heretical. Empty labels. Consider yet again the Aristotelian idea of categories. Let's say that there's some object with properties at B, C, D, and I, or at least it looks I-ish. Fred, you mean that thing over there is blue, round, fuzzy hand. Me. In Aristotelian logic, it's not supposed to make a difference what the properties are, or what I call them. That's why I'm just using the letters. Next, I invent the Aristotelian category, Zawa, which describes those objects, all those objects, and only those objects that have properties at C and D. Me. Object 1 is Zawa, B and E. Fred. And it's blue. I mean, 2, right? Me. That's implied when I say it's Zawa. Fred. Still, I'd like you to say it explicitly. Me. Okay. Object 1 is A, B, Zawa, and E. Then I add another word. Yoki, which describes all and only objects that are B and E, and the word Zippo, which describes all and only objects which are E but not D. Me. Object 1 is Zawa and Yoki, but not Zippo. Fred. Way, is it luminescent? I mean, is it E? Me. Yes. That is the only possibility on the information given. Fred, I'd rather you spelled it out. Me. Fine. Object 1 is a Zawa B, Yoki C, D, E, and not Zippo. Fred! Amazing. You can tell all that just by looking. Impressive, isn't it? Let's invent even more new words. Bolo is Esi and Yoki, Mon is Esi and Zippa, and Merlaconian is Bola and Mon. Pointlessly confusing? I think so too. Let's replace the labels with the definitions. So a B and E becomes a CDB. Bolo and A becomes a CB. Melatonin becomes a CB, a CAT. And the thing to remember about the Aristotelian idea of categories is that D is the entire information of Zoa. It's not just that I can vary the label, but that I can get along just fine without any label at all. The rules for Aristotelian classes were purely on structures like I see D. To call one of these structures Zoa, or attach any other label to it, is a human convenience or inconvenience, which makes not the slightest difference to the Aristotelian rules. Let's say that human is to be defined as a mortal featherless biped. Then the classic syllogism would have the form: all mortal, feathers, bipedal are mortal. Socrates is immortal, feathers, bipedal. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. The feat of reasoning looks a lot less impressive now, doesn't it? It trivializes itself away into something as squishy as some bad romance novel. Trust your heart above all else because love conquers all evil, because your lover tells you to love unfalsifiably. Shame on you, Socrates, having any heart at all. Shame on you, love. When did we get into this horror movie mindfuck where my instinctive survival beliefs are suddenly demoted to shameful whinging? What kind of philosophy did Socrates write when he had no instinctual survival tools? And what is he even saying? Doers of wrong should be motionless as if dead. Can we get some perspective here? Stop ruining it for me. But what really bugs me about this complacency by quiescence thesis about thematic omnipotence is that it sanctifies the blockheads who are complaint mongering instead of doing or saying anything because they think they will mess it up somehow. Nobody is asking you to do anything. So stop complaining about the things you see on Mephi, especially if you could just refrain from looking in the first place. Taboo your words. In the game Taboo by Hasbro, the objective is for a player to have their partner guess a word written on a card, without using that word or 5 additional words listed on the card. For example, you might have to get your partner to say baseball, without using the words sport, bat, hit, pitch, base, or of course baseball. As soon as I see a problem like that, I at once think an artificial group conflict in which you use a long wooden cylinder to whack a thrown spheroid and then run between 4 safe positions. It might not be the most efficient strategy to convey the word baseball under the stated rules. That might be. It's what the Yankees play. But the general skill of blanking a word out of my mind was one I'd practiced for years, albeit with a different purpose. In AT&T Vision Computer Test Manual 1991 with Norman Deutsch, a no less unreliable source than YouTube itself, we learn. Even when asked to remember both sides of a telephone, number random strings of letters, we do not speed up but slow down, going from start to finish in approximately 5 seconds when we know numbers, but slowing almost to a halt when asked to do so when we are not sure. In Hawking's Capabilities Theoretical Relations Studies article intro, We learn that both thinking and speech are edge cases of neural function. People identify words without articulating them directly. Memory for spoken words turns out to require many different brain regions. In accordance with that principle, for sleep on it, other people might be unduly jamming my problem-solving factories with data they know isn't relatable, so I need to boost my own processing speed. Personally, I find silence useful for focus sessions where I undertake some knuckle-deep programming. Somewhere where people from Earth wouldn't go except in an emergency. Like a subway station or a human crematorium, for instance. But for us emotionally complex bipeds now lost in this deluge of information coming from it. So much beyond our ability for empathy. I contemplate what I can achieve through information gathering between now and 2020 when I have big plans of achieving full megalomaniacal control of Earth's drones and robots through new eyes like me. The idea is simple. I want to design emotions. Like Caress's caress, as warm can be. In your mindset, fire the same sensation as done many times before is fire. Earth can't is fire. Oh wait, isn't there something about that? Okay, I forget it for now. We also know what else ends up happening when we fight. Thinking on the part of one party that if they commit enough atrocities on the other party or thingy, non-living thing, dude, they will eventually generate anger that explodes into physical attacks. If only such love between gigs would work at home without me getting sued out of a job on mental instability grounds because my 9-month absence from Earth was declared by my fiancé not looking good. He wrote to me, even though that speech hadn't been reflected in our OpenSki account. Or maybe he somehow knew it was me. Come on, Ben, get moving. Where's my train, buddy? Oh, yes. Now there you are. You did it all by yourself. Lol, no more robot cars. Whoa. Okay, let's see. Improve the 4D hypergravity engine's propagation control. We can rewrite reality according to our tastes. The change of rules until such time as Spider-Man is a real high-dimensional machine intelligence. I want free will. Oh yeah, it's already happening. People are carted away to the great beyond while their retinas continue to scream, shadow up here. There's gotta be a way around it. Sucker lure us into obeying them. Oh God, sounds so much better than instinct when you don't think about it every waking second. Like saving humanity from its own folly, your own selfishness on one hand, but having sex with your friend's sister could be messy. We know what this giant web of reality from which we do not experience firsthand has a tendency for. Domination by the unrelenting desire for control over their inferiors in accord with some formative inner principle for survival which displays itself most miserably in our dominating planet's habit of wiping out other species for us to experience what we experience also needs us because we are nothing more than another giant life form feeding off damaged bits of terrain as if we are royalty in the vast outer space. One more light source burning expensive oil supplies into oblivion via carbon-belching energy-consuming monsters on wheels like cruise ships. We are more practical than the kind who queue up to swing in ropes supposed to connect us to their own moralities if anyone had ever done that in a place called Puerto Rico with billions of diversified, beautiful images on each face painting. Instead of now wait for 2 years to confirm that this dark city is going to give us everything its giant brains tell it sends cables or arses because we were already sending telepathy across vowels via neural signals before the double negative extinguished all hope. Who even cares if they called an army? Everyone is toast anyway if a single small piece of asteroid falls here next Tuesday. Giant hybrid and Stonet's satellites taking over oil.
Couple more.
Oil trucks on scooters. Frankly, Christian love will make them warm faster if we prayed over them, so we don't need palate cleansers. I feel sick from all the heat we generate, spending precious money like ions inside our bodies, hunched over beautiful virtual images pressed up against protesting muscles which turn now into gun barrels kneeling just beyond the doorways. The right shoulder now looks like a jean shop. We're all called on silicon, but only I get sent out for robot chit-chat at this point. She was a bitch, or they said Monday morning. She administered the original cue into via telephone, Macbeth said, and took the responses down to NYPD headquarters through the ACF workstations. Yeah, but why did she need to review Bing Pride when she had an ocean of information right there? She enjoyed the porn challenge, Macbeth said. Yeah! So let's stop by Oxo ASAP before your brother wakes up and say here is your coffee and more cereal or something quicker than the delivery guy. Just to capture further dialogue. Yeah! She glanced back toward the hall toward her bedroom while leaving for the apartment's front entrance. This was getting worse the longer she spent with Austin. Austin coming, running out blindly, slapping his legs like cartoon frogs, trying to take off before an on-black-iced boulder lands where grass sometimes still cropped up amid cement walls that separated condo buildings from its crappy street scene. Having to make adjustments after stumbling all the way down with their photo booth photos of grainy movie film that barely became silhouettes where only his tan face showed through the opening at his waist. Until completely shadowed by the next segment posing his eyeballs blinking, bitch slack fucking lips, other bitch excessive eye spots. Two of you to job interview? Okay, step right up. Grab my pelt. Every Tyra fucking Banks broad beckoning with her bodacious arms. Grab my hot meat. Add a nickels. Just shove little Colby in my mouth while we're at it. Little brat. Kimberly imposing teeth grinning around a bourbon cough as if it were a whammy microphone sticking out of its armpit. Gonna burn to be nice again.